So the first victim tonight is an accomplished guitarist in the lineage of Steve Vai and Eddie Van Halen. He shares his hard-won wisdom on YouTube about how to play guitar really well, really fast. He's currently midstream on the Rockspostrophe tour, and he's appeared in films from Pretty in Pink alongside Molly Ringwald to The Running Man alongside Arnold. He's a champion of the guitar riff. He is son of Frank Zappa. Please welcome to the stage, DWEEZIL ZAPPA.
Hello, thank you for having me. Hello, hello.
Okay, you're a man of the guitar.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite riff?
There's so many good ones. I mean, arguably, Edward Van Halen has come up with some of the very best guitar riffs of all time. One of them being Unchained from the Fair Warning album. And the funny thing about that one is...
has this fascinating section. It's in the Thunder number 9 of Finnegan's Wake that he deals with the Ont and the Grasshopper. Then in Thunder number 10 on page 424, he goes straight over to TV and deals with the TV world as such. It's the last Thunder in the book. The Thunders, by the way, in Finnegan's Wake are moments of huge technological innovation and impact on society. The thunder is the rumble of social change, response to new technology in the whole human society. The thunder is simply the kind of world applause or response to novelty and innovation. And there are 10 of these thunders, each one of which is very carefully worked out in terms of things like motor cars and telegraphs and television and movies. Now, the TV as plane is much more, you see, an airplane is not the extension.
Drums, 2, 3, 4. It's an extension of the entire body simultaneously. And that's why it brings it very much closer to TV than it does to movie. All technologies, whatever, are extensions of our own physiology and our own sensory life. Naturally, when you extend these forms into the environment and make environments out of them, it has a profound effect.
If you learn to play it, it's a very guitaristic riff. Like, it lays under the fingers very well. But oddly, he wrote it on the piano.
DWEEZIL would That's a lot.
Why do you think that men are the only ones that make up dirty jokes? According to Legman and the rationale of the dirty joke, he said that it's only men that make up dirty jokes. What grievances do the dirty jokes have?
It reminds one of the show they had on Harold Innes radio a few weeks ago, in which they tried to reassure the public that he was a real guy by insisting that he loved dirty jokes.
Oh.
Yes.
What got you into guitars?
Well, my dad played guitar, so of course, I saw him playing guitar as a kid, and I would go to the concerts, and I would see just the fact that when he was playing guitar, it wasn't the standard type of thing that a lot of guitar players go through, which is you learn to play something, you rehearse it a lot, and it becomes sort of like almost like an athletic routine that you are able to accomplish. My dad was not that way. He was much more a spontaneous composer. He was really a composer in general, so he used the guitar as an instrument to react to the music that was being performed on stage. Now that requires having a different state of mind to play and to be open to creating spontaneously all kinds of different thematic ideas and variations in rhythm. So he had the ability to play for 10 or 15 minutes without repeating himself, not because he was a guy that had like, here's my lick number one that I play in every song, but because he was really just making it up extemporaneously in the moment, which is very much harder to do because you need to have access to the part of your brain that allows you to react to the music and edit enough ideas so that you're able to play with diversity, rhythmic diversity and melodic diversity, and keep someone's attention while you're making something up as you go. And that is sort of a lifelong pursuit. And many jazz musicians, that's something that they work towards, but to be a rock and roll guitar player and play not specifically only rock and roll, not specifically jazz, but a fusion of all of that stuff. I was around that all the time, so I knew that was a possibility. But as a kid, I would see my dad play at shows, and I would think, you got to know a lot to do what he's doing. And so at the point where I started wanting to play guitar when I was 12, it was because of Edward Van Halen and players like Randy Rhoads, who played in Ozzy Osbourne's band. So if you put it into perspective, in the early 80s, like 1980, 81, 82, that's the most popular music in the world was hard rock. And it was on the radio everywhere. It was selling. It was the highest grossing products out there. So I was influenced by that kind of sound, and it made me want to play guitar. And so to some degree, I still have a huge inspiration that always comes from hearing any of that kind of stuff.
I think that's a segue to perhaps play your first record.
Sure.
That you ever recorded.
Well, it happens to be the first record I spent my own money on that I went to a store and purchased is Van Halen's Fair Warning album. Yes. But the thing about it is, I had gotten really into Van Halen, and right around the time I was hearing it a lot on the radio and my friends were listening to it, we received a phone call at our house, and this is back when you would have a phone on the wall and it would have multiple lines, and somebody could be in one room on the phone and somebody could be in another room, pick up that phone and listen in on the conversation. But somebody called our house purporting to be Edward Van Halen. So at this time, in the early 80s, there's no MTV, there's nothing where you would really know what somebody truly sounds like. Or how could you know who this person is? It could be anybody just pretending to be Edward Van Halen. So this guy says he's Edward Van Halen. My mom answers the phone, and she's like, get on the other line. There's a guy says he's Eddie Van Halen. I'm like,
I can't read it out loud directly, but here's a transcription we can use with a text-to-speech tool. What are the myths by which men have recorded the action of new media on their lives? Is there significance in the fact that the Oedipus myth has so far not been found among the pre-literate? Is the action of literacy in the shaping of individualism and nationalism also severe on kinship structures? Is the Gorgon myth an account of the effects of literacy in arresting the modes of knowledge? Certainly the Cadmus myth about letters as the dragon's teeth that sprang up armed men is an image of the dynamics of literacy in creating empires. H.A. Innes in his Empire and Communications has given us a full exegesis of the Cadmus myth. But the Gorgon myth is in much greater need of exegesis, since it concerns the role of media in learning and knowing. Today, when by means of a computer it is easy to translate a mere blueprint of an unbuilt plane into a wind tunnel test flight, we find it natural to take all flat data into the domain of depth interpretation. Electronic culture accepts the simultaneous as a reconquest of auditory space. Since the ear picks up sound from all directions at once, thus creating a spherical field of experience, it is natural that electronically moved information should also assume this sphere-like pattern. Since the telegraph, then, the forms of Western culture have been strongly shaped by the sphere-like pattern that belongs to a field of awareness in which all the elements are practically simultaneous. Would you like me to generate an audio file for you?
What now? You know, my ears perk up. I'm 12, and I've never heard him speak before. I've never even heard him in an interview. I've only seen pictures of him on albums and stuff. So he's saying he wants to talk to my dad, and my only frame of reference is, well, there's a part in a Van Halen song where in Unchained, David Lee Roth says something, and then the response is somebody that comes over a speaker in the studio and says, "Come on, Dave, give us a break." And I'm like, well, that could have been Edward, or maybe that's the producer of the record, which it turns out it is Ted Templeman who says that. But I'm just filtering that through my mind, and I'm thinking, okay, I think there's a good chance this guy is actually Edward Van Halen. Long story short, my dad gets on the phone with him. They talk for a few minutes, and 15 minutes later, he's at our house. And he's wearing the jumpsuit from Women and Children First album cover. He's got the Van Halen necklace, the Van Halen logo, and he walks in with a guitar not in a case, and it has a piece of tape over the headstock so you can't see what brand it is, because he was just about to endorse this company that no one had known yet called Kramer Guitars. And he walked in the stairs up this staircase into the studio. My dad had a studio at home. And for me, he might as well have been backlit with a smoke machine, and it was a real-life superhero walking up the steps. And he came into the studio, and before there was even hellos, I was like, play Eruption, play Mean Street. And he plugged in, and he played this stuff, and I got to see it up close. And that was the moment where I was like, I need to do this. So let's maybe choose something from the record. I know we talked about